What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to review Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Just got out of the theater, just sat down, and, I'm going to say that I absolutely loved it. Now, I want to be careful because I'm thinking, all right, well, how much do I love it, right? Recency bias and all that. I adored that movie. I think there's very few things wrong with it. I guess trying to analyze it, on the go as I'm watching it, but you step away from it with a lot of emotion, you feel a lot of heart from this film. You're laughing, you're crying, you're, all these different things, and it really is a ride. So, although obviously things do wear off, and maybe watching it more than once, right, you're going to get a different vibe or opinion from it. The first time you see this film, I really think you walk out and say, what a ride, and what a combination, or I guess what an arc with so many of these characters and with these films. I had just rewatched Guardians 1 and 2 this past week to, get ready for Volume 3, and they're so good. Volume 2 definitely has a lot of issues, I think. It still, has a lot of heart, and I think it's still one of, the top half Marvel films. God knows they aren't doing so great now with the shows and movies, so they still stand in, almost elite territory. The first one, for sure. Second one, you can, of course, debate it. And then this one, I really think they did the whole package deal. You get an ending that I think, and maybe we'll talk about it in spoilers, maybe we won't, but this isn't a spoiler section right here. The ending feels earned. Everything that this movie does, actually, including emotional moments, comedy, action, it all feels James Gunn has earned, and the cast has earned the right to do it. So you're never saying, I'm not going to give them that. There's a couple scenes that I think, if it wasn't the Guardians, and if it wasn't what we've come to expect and what we've gone through with this group, you may not give them. But I think you will, because it is what it is. Talking a little bit about the characters in a non-spoiler fashion, I really think the heart of this movie lies in the family. The entire point of the movie, I guess you had to have seen trailers, right? The entire point is this family dynamic of caring for each other and all this jazz, and I think they do it so well. You think about every character, and you think, who's the weak link? There are just so many amazing characters as part of the Guardians, and they all have not just comedic moments to shine in this movie, but just huge character. Every single one. There's some standouts. So I think Nebula is maybe my favorite character of the entire film. She's extremely good. I love the arc they've taken her on. Watching her, I guess, in the first Guardians to then now, holy God, it's different. But it feels, in my opinion, earned, not just in Guardians, but then also the Avengers, right? Infinity War and Endgame. I feel like she's deserved this. I feel like how she acts now, yeah, it's totally different. And she's laughing and she's doing things in this that it's like, oh my God, you would never think Nebula would do it. But because of the arcs and because it's all felt organic and earned, you completely give them, or at least I completely gave them. So I think I'd say, Nebula was my favorite character, but they're really, Groot obviously doesn't say too much, but I thought he was extremely cool. Maybe he's the weak link, but Drax had his moments of comedy and then seriousness. Mantis had her moments of comedy and extreme seriousness. Peter, same thing, emotion with Gamora, which I loved every time they kind of got into that. They did it a few times in this movie, kind of getting down to the I loved her, Peter saying it I loved that Gamora, and she was everything to me, and then she's gone, and now we have you. And they did that 3 or 4 times, and every time it's I actually would just like to see these scenes continue, because I think those two have great chemistry, and I think Chris Pratt sells it, that he is hurting, and you believe him. You believe how much that Gamora meant to him, in his heart, and she really was everything to him. So that was just, I think, beautiful every time they did it, but I think he was just a great character. Rocket, the movie was about him. There's a couple of incredible lines. I won't spoil one, but the idea that these have always been Rocket's movies, right? James Gunn wanted to make Rocket the main character, right? Originally, he pitched the first movie as a Rocket movie. That's outright said to you in this one, that Rocket is the main, which I love. And I think, Bradley Cooper and Rocket as a character, I think is tremendous. Gamora, I thought, takes some getting used to, because you're just not used to it. And again, so I watched the first Guardians, second Guardians just in the last week. I didn't watch, Infinity War and Endgame. And so, obviously I remember those movies, but it's very weird going from her in 2 to then her in 3. It's just extremely different, and it should feel different because that's not her, right? It's literally a different Gamora. So I think it was kind of a genius tactic of what James Gunn managed to do with the cards he was basically dealt. He didn't really have a say or a choice in it, and so I'm spending so much time talking on this group of characters because that's the movie. There were some incredible action scenes. There was incredible scope. There was incredible intensity, and the stakes mattered. The stakes were smaller in scope than I would say ever before because it wasn't necessarily about saving civilizations or planets, at least not for like most of the movie, but it was about, one in particular character of Rocket. It was, again, his story. So it was very centered on one thing. And it felt smaller, but because it was Rocket, it felt obviously incredibly emotional. Oh, I didn't mention Adam Warlock. I thought he was awesome. If I were to point out one weakness, I would say I don't really know if they knew what to do with him. Obviously, he's extremely powerful, and they kind of gave an excuse in the beginning of the movie of he is powerful, but he's kind of dumb. Like, he's not, fully powered all the way up, right? So he's in without spoiling, kind of his role throughout the movie. It's weird, but I do like it. Like, every time he's on screen, I wanted to see more. I think he has a lot of charisma. Just like you watch Drax, and it's like, just give me 2 hours of just Drax talking to people. I don't need him to fight. I don't need him to just have him interact with others. I do feel that with Adam Warlock, where it's like, yeah, you got some sort of spunk to you that I think would work for an entire, if you want to give him like his own movie or whatever, I think you could. But in this movie, the one we're talking about, I think his role was a little kind of all over the place. The High Evolutionary, all the things you've seen online about wanting a villain to die and hating a villain more than like any, yeah, he's the one. There's very little you can grasp onto of like reasoning and understanding him, right? So Thanos, you get it. And I think you could argue he's actually in the right, at least the Infinity War version of him. Endgame, they kind of did some weird stuff with that character. But the thing that made Thanos special is you could actually understand where he's coming from. The High Evolutionary, you understand like this much, and then the rest of it, 1%. And the other 99 is you want him dead because of the things he's done. So I think they did a tremendous job with that. Animal cruelty, it's not fun to watch, but boy, does it make you, hate a character. And I think that's exactly what it did with him. So I loved it. I mean, very character driven. Again, but there were action scenes. And when there were action scenes, it was incredible. The ending, incredible. The emotion, I mean, it got to me a few times for sure. Like, because this is really, and we've talked about this before, it's in my heart of hearts. I truly do believe this. I mean, Marvel is not in a good place. I think the quality is worse than ever before. I'm sorry. It's literally just my opinion. I don't think they're heading in the right direction. And I think things can probably only get worse until there's like a hard reboot and then it gets better. I really believe that's where it is. So to see James Gunn still do it and still deliver. But I truly, you can read into that and you can, judge however you want. I believe in my heart we haven't seen a Marvel movie of this quality since Endgame. Since at least Endgame. And Endgame, obviously very polarizing. Infinity War, I think kind of universally. We all love it. Very little wrong with it. It's more of how they stuck the landing. So really, this, I think, is the best we've gotten from Marvel since 4+ years ago. And this has got to be in the top, 20%, let's say, of Marvel films. But also, you think of the future, what in God's name is going to rival this? Now, this had the benefit of being the ending of a trilogy with characters that we love and we've spent a lot of time with. And they also had Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame to flesh them out even more. So it had like an unfair advantage, I suppose. But we're not going to get this again for who knows? Like literally, who knows if this is it? If we're going to get it again with some other group or some other character, they're going to strike gold. I really don't know. But you got to enjoy the ride, right? And I definitely did. I think this is a very well-rounded movie. Like I said in the beginning, you're going to laugh, you're going to tear up, you're going to be emotional, you're going to there's a couple things I think I can point to where it's like, I don't know if they absolutely nailed that. I think we can keep this entirely spoiler-free. I really love the ending. My wife is a little bit more shaky on it. That's okay. And I think other people may be, kind of up or down. I think it, again, for each character, it all felt, without, spoiling what happens to any of them, everything felt earned. everything felt like the end in a sense, like closing of a chapter book. So I think they did an incredible job, and I kind of want to watch it again. But I won't go back to theaters to see it. I'll wait for it to come to whatever. But this is definitely worth watching for sure. Right now, I'd probably say it's my favorite, of the three, but recency bias. 1 is like incredibly good. I think this is probably more well-rounded than 1, and 2, I don't even think it's a competition. I think this movie is definitely better than 2. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.